So, this is it. Our interviews with Carl Hayden-Smith, Ravensbourne University, talking about the extended state DMT research at Imperial College London. Woo! We split the content into two videos for you. The first one is an intro to Carl and his time, his 5 or 6 years with Imperial College, and the other DMT studies that he did, a little bit about Carl and what he does and his vibe and what he's all about. And the second video will be about the deep dive into the extended state. And there's some gems in there, some real gems. So we hope you enjoy it. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you think in the comments. And excuse the audio, it was a bit windy. I didn't have a lav mic, but we've cleaned it up as best we can. We think the videos are good. Let us know what you think. Love to you all. Peace. Happy tripping. Looking for my dog. She's over there. Peace. Okay, so Prima Jaguars, the long-awaited interview with Mr. Carl H. Smith. Hello, Carl.
Hello. Very well, thanks. Got a nice day for it.
It is a nice day for it. Yeah, we met Carl on Wednesday at the event that we were shooting. Can we say the name of that?
Yeah. What was the name?
Cygen. For Cygen, and Carl came along. But we've had this interview teed up for some time now from our very good friend Pascal Michael, who kind of set it up for us. Carl has been on a bit of a journey for quite some time.
Yeah.
Carl, do you want to intro yourself?
Sure.
Tell everybody what you do and who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm Carl Hayden-Smith. I'm an academic by trade. Very much interested in how do we use technology to learn, and very much looking at things like mixed reality, sensory augmentation, perceptual adaptation. So you could argue those are almost like psychedelic states in themselves. So very much focused on the human condition. What is it, and how can we augment it? How can we make life a little bit easier for ourselves? And I think learning technology itself as the focus is difficult to do. Most technologies actually, make us a bit more stupid, arguably. And we tend to outsource our intelligence to the machine. So yeah, I've always been interested in my consciousness and basically exploring it. And I think it's our sovereign right to be able to do so. And so much of our current society seems to dissuade us from doing that, and so many people watching EastEnders and thinking that's a fair way of exploring their consciousness. For me, it's the antithesis of what we should be doing. And I think that any which way, whether it's through technology or through an entheogen or through breath work, I just think that it's time to get into your own consciousness and to explore it. And I'm looking at all the different ways that we do that. So there.
Amazing. Cool. Good. Fantastic.
Just hang on, before we go there, can I just, is it Anil
Seth, yeah.
So he's doing work with technology to create hallucination.
That's right.
Is that a similar thing to you're exploring?
Yeah, so we set up with a bunch of friends, we set up the Cyberdelic Society about 5-6 years ago. And very much that. So the remit is how do we democratise the psychedelic experience for people that will never take psychedelics?
Yeah, cool.
Because I think that we've got a lot of people that are very scared, either whether it's to do with the legalities of these substances or just the lack of control that they associate with them. So with technologies, we can actually you can reliably put on a headset. You're in this artificial realm. And Seth is exploring that kind of what can these technologies give us? Because when you're in a VR space, the brain doesn't realise
That's right.
that it's, it's, your mind can cope with it, but your brain is like taking all these sensory cues, because the brain's constantly trying to find out where it is. So there's all your senses are actually trying to locate you in space. So when you put on a VR headset, it's quite easy to trick the brain. The brain sort of knows pretty quickly that it's being tricked. And you can add other sensory modalities into it in order to. I'll give you a great example. There's an experience called Ricky's Plank Experience.
Okay.
And this is a Oculus Quest game where you're basically going into a hotel. You're untethered, so you can walk around freely. So you're sitting in this hotel, you go into the lift, go up the top floor, and then the doors open, and you're in this cityscape, but all there is you and a plank.
Right.
All right, and you have to actually walk onto the plank.
Okay.
And your brain's going, don't do it. Whatever you do, what the hell are you doing? What's going on here? This isn't like you normally.
Yeah.
But the object is to actually go onto the plank and actually fall off.
Oh.
So, and it looks real. Your brain, you're in sort of a New York cityscape and you're actually like falling off a plank. Gravity is pulling you down to the ground. And for me,
Is that the reaction then? Do people actually walk off the plank and then drop to the floor?
they actually, it's a good question. I mean, so what you can actually do is actually add a real plank in the room. So a lot of people actually, so you actually feel the plank as well as seeing it to add to the sort of the trickery.
Nice.
So adding more senses. But yeah, I think the key thing is that that kind of experience is actually really good for preparing you for a psychedelic experience. Or look at the most extreme experiences like 5-MeO DMT. It's all about letting go.
Yeah.
And letting go is not a thought. You have to embody it.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's where people struggle. How do you practice letting go? And if you can use a technology to prepare you for a very powerful journey, then let's utilize it. You can also, with these cyberdelics, we've looked at all sorts of different technologies, things like the Lucia light. You've seen the Lucia number 3?
Yeah.
So that's a typical cyberdelic, which is advanced flicker.
Yeah.
And flicker's all about brain entrainment. So, the oldest one was William Burroughs and Jason with a record player with a dream machine, it was called. So it's like
the horse?
It's a structure that's got holes in it.
Yeah.
It's got a light bulb in the middle, and it's going round.
Yeah.
And this is actually, if you know when you're on a train, and you go through the trees, and the sun's behind the trees, that creates this flicker.
Yeah.
And this is the oldest way of creating a psychedelic entrainment.
Okay.
So you're actually putting your brain into a certain brain state, whether it's a delta state or a theta state.
Right.
It's all about this frequency of the light hitting and coming out. So the Lucia light works on that technology, but updates it.
Right.
So they call it a liquid LSD kind of experience, and people experience out-of-body experiences. They have sort of regression experiences.
So I suppose you could tie that in with musical vibration frequencies as well.
Yeah,
Work the two
exactly.
together, really.
Exactly. It's all about what I call stacking.
Yeah.
And I'm developing something out of the Psychedelic Society called the Holotechnica Academy, which is when you've got these abilities now to maybe start with some meditation.
Yeah.
Then you do some breath work. Then you might do some magic mushrooms.
Okay.
Then you might go into VR and experience something in VR. Then you might came out of the VR
I like the sound of that.
and then do some more meditation.
Yeah.
So it's about the protocol of stacking different
and people will be a lot more comfortable with that as well, because you're talking about a microdose maybe of suicide or some.
We're stacking it throwing it in the same day.
Yeah, you're
All
creating.
together.
You're creating like this recipe.
Okay.
So imagine like cooking. You're actually getting all the different ingredients together, and you're looking at how they interact.
Uh-huh.
And I think that for me is the sort of the next level. We've got we've got understandings now from specific molecules. How do they interact?
Yeah.
And how do you also not just depend completely on the molecule to get you somewhere, but you actually do the breath work during your journey.
There's an intention behind all of that as well, rather than just like a psychedelic DMT. You grab the phone, you got no. Your intention is to take it, but you ain't got no choice.
Exactly.
Whereas for people who don't want that, it's more comfortable stacking. Like you said, I can really see how that would work. You do the breath work, you do the meditation, a little bit of psilocybin.
Yeah, and you could be using the virtual reality to actually
It's like
help
a new
you
retreat.
Yeah, help you actually go through those steps, and it can be your guide. And obviously you've got your psychedelic therapists as well.
Yeah, I can see how that would work alongside that as well.
Yeah, it's all about, for me, using these technologies either to create altered states themselves or to help you prepare for a journey or help you actually, after your journey, to integrate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definite aspect of it.
That's a definite 9 perfect strangers treatment.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet.
Go watch it, man. Go watch it.
So Justin and I have been talking about making videos about interviewing Dr. Gallimore and talking about the kind of this extended state DMT research that kind of started off with Gallimore and Strassman creating the paper, and then now that's come to England, to Imperial College, and they've kind of put together the protocol, and sort of said, this can be done. And we were aware through speaking to Dr. David Luke, Pascal, and various others that it was in the throes of being done. Had no idea that it actually had been done, and Carl actually did it.
That's right.
So, I mean, as I know, talking about the science of it is not quite allowed yet, maybe. But,
it's more that we're protecting the protocol, because I was in a pilot study, and just to correct slightly, so the Gallimore protocol slightly different to the Imperial one, and actually it was the Germans that got there first.
He mentioned the Germans.
2005, I believe.
Yes, you're right.
They created the first instance, but again, it's not particularly well documented. I don't think there's not a lot of info from that time. But that's you're right. I do remember those things being said.
And we can't even talk about what the difference is, because we kind of got an understanding of what Gallimore. Well, we're not the science of it, but
I mean the science. I think what our.
But actually, all we're interested in is
what the fuck happened.
You went in, and you went in for a very long time, and that's something that no other person we're aware of right now has actually. Yeah. And you were the longest venturer in the realm.
Oh, I think I was the one that managed to do
like the Captain Cook of the DMT world.
The full range of the doses.
Doses
over that 3 months.
Okay, so let's go straight in.
Without further ado.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of a normal 60 milligram breakthrough dose lasting, I mean, for me it's fairly short usually. Intense, always have entity contact, but my experiences are fairly brief. I mean, in the breakthrough state it's kind of 5 minutes. And then, for whatever reason, I would love to be able to sort of sit and stay in the space, but I'm kind of excited about me come out of it and talk about it. But 5 minutes, as deep as I can possibly go, that's me. I mean, what does the extended pilot that you did? What did it feel? Were you able to kind of comprehend the time you were in there based on the time, the sort of dilation aspect of DMT?
Yeah, good question.
Did it feel longer? Did you know it was longer?
Yeah. So just a bit of background then. So it's been 6 years in the full study. So the DMT extended has been the latter, the third phase of that study. So 6 years at Imperial. First phase was EEG and intravenous DMT and NDMT, and so that beginning was very interesting because that long ago the technology was pretty, the EEG caps were pretty basic, even for Imperial, and it's kind of restricted in what I could, physically. I mean, for me, the breath is so important during the DMT journey for actually being able to navigate the space, not just to be able to ground yourself, but also to actually move around the space. And I was sort of chastised and like, no, you can't do that because it's interfering with the EEG.
Right, okay.
So you're messing up the data, and I'm like, I'm sorry guys, but I need to be able to do that, otherwise I can't really take part. So they forgave me and let me back in the second phase. The second phase was EEG plus fMRI. So that was very much a case of intravenous DMT. I don't know if you've been in an fMRI scanner.
No.
But the claustrophobia is ridiculous. I mean, I'm not claustrophobic, but going in that machine without a blindfold initially was probably one of the more more difficult experiences I've had to go through. But then you kind of like you're coping with the claustrophobia, and then you're like, oh shit, I'm in here for DMT. And then suddenly, and because you're not smoking it, because you're having it intravenously injected, you don't know when it's coming.
Right,
you obviously feel that Kundalini kick in the base of the spine. Normally that makes me sort of sit upright, and obviously you're lying down, wedged into this situation. So
sounds like there was some trials and hurdles to get over in your own psyche then. So
exactly. And I think the key thing there was that I'm again, because I'm interested in the technology and the combination of technology with these entheogens, the impact that the scanner had on the journey was immense, because the first time I'm having this intravenous injection of DMT whilst being brain scanned, the amount of entities that turn up en masse, all very, big variety of them, different types of entities, all coming. The way I understand the DMT journey is that the medicine, however it works, it creates this like mesh, which is like a playpen, and it's like that you're being observed through that playpen. It's like you pop up, and then these entities suddenly see that there's an availability. It's almost like us going to the zoo and watching. Yeah, so you're in this mesh-like structure. You're part of the mesh, and you're literally you're being observed by these entities. But the benevolence that I felt, specifically because of this, the actual scanner, was immense, because they're always super concerned for me. Suddenly I'm whether they keep track of all the journeys you go on, but they're suddenly like, what the hell's going on here? Are you dying? They're like, you're not meant to be dying right now. And it's almost as if to say, they were showing me, and it's so weird because it's all telepathic. They're showing me that I'm immortal, but they're also going, but you're in a human body right now. Yeah. So there was like this flicker tape machine, and it's like, you're immortal, don't worry. Yeah. But human body right now, don't die. It's not your time. Can we do anything? Can we do anything to help you? And I was like, no, guys, it's all good. I'm in a research study. I'm, this is all legit, and try and calm down. Trying to calm down the entities instead of the other way around. Yeah. So that was a real moment for me when I'm realizing, hang on a minute, this is actually, they're very, very concerned. And a lot of people talk about guides. Yeah. And these are your guides to get you across from the death state. And we know DMT is released at death. Yeah. There's a whole cocktail of drugs actually released at death. Yeah. So made me kind of like realize they're warning me here that this scanner isn't particularly healthy. It's not a good thing to be doing. Yeah. And they're like, don't do it. So I come out of this experience completely amazed at the kind of validation that this is benevolence, that these are guides, that there is a reason for it. And let me just finish with this point, that I had to go back in 2 weeks later, and amazingly, and I really didn't want to, but I had to stick to protocol, otherwise the study wouldn't be complete, so I had to go back in. But what was amazing was that it launched into the same landscape, but not a single entity came. As if to say, we told you not to do this. We're not going to tell you again.
So what was the experience of doing that?
Was that in the MRI? Was it just in the MRI again?
Yeah.
So you were in the MRI
phase 2. Yeah.
You wound up in the same landscape, but this time nobody went.
As if to say, there's an intelligence there that is continuous. Yeah, for sure. Like that they know what you've done, they know where you've been, and they know not to bother.
This car is in that bloody machine.
You had the geometry of the space.
Yeah, so I had the landscape, no entities. So like imagine like we're around the Sisby Ring. It's
That's
like
interesting.
Imagine that there's just no. You're in the landscape, but it's quite a lonely quite a lot. And I was like it was like
the majority of my DMT trips.
But that was a lot of people never see entities. But this for me was a real wake up call, as if to say, yes,
there is something else going on a parallel sort of timeline.
Yeah.
That they say, well, hang on a minute, we told you last night, don't do it.
Exactly.
So you can sort off.
So I think this is obviously just setting up for the next phase, which is the DMTX phase. So already I'm thinking, hang on a minute, this is not a recreational experience. You shouldn't take it as a recreational experience.
For sure.
And I think that, you know, if you're going to basically cry wolf before you are actually needing guidance, and, you know, I've done a lot of journeys with 5-MeO as well. And for me, the NN-DMT experience, the Changa or the ayahuasca, this is your, you know, you being guided to the next realm,
The death state.
whereas 5-MeO, I believe it, and obviously it's a big hunch,
Yeah.
and obviously all the things I'm going to say on tape are just my opinion.
Of course.
I believe that is the death state, and therefore,
do you think it's further than the death? Do you think that just to the 5-MeO?
yeah,
Do you think that potentially that's still on the way to the death state, but it's kind of further on to the death state, or it is the death state?
it's a great question. I mean, my hunch is that if you look at it in terms of light, there's light now, the sun hitting us.
Yeah.
You know, the sun is in the sky, the light source is in the sky. It's the source of energy that creates all life on Earth, and well, not all life, because there's certain animals, certain life forms that don't need the sun in the depths of the sea, which is fascinating. But you know, that is where we're experiencing the relationship with the light. In the NN-DMT experience, you see light beings, light emanating from these beings, right? So you might even look down at your own body and see a light body.
Yes.
And a lot of these entities, you can see that they're holographic. They're made. They almost look like they're digital VR. That looks like.
Yeah, they do.
And then 5-MeO DMT, much higher in terms, if you talk about dimensions, which I know is a loaded term, but 5-MeO DMT, you become light.
Okay.
You know, there's a very different, like, there's no longer entity. There's no entities there. There's no content. It's just you as light in this ginormous, infinite space, which is home. You kind of know it's home. You know.
So do you feel connected? Like you're back?
There's no longer a subject-object relationship.
Okay, nice.
So, you know, the first time I ever did 5-MeO, I'm literally like, you know, exhaling, and as I exhaled, my consciousness expands so rapidly that I popped, and then suddenly I'm like, oh my god, there's no longer me and other, it's just me, and you become light, and you become all of it, and you become infinite, and you become eternal, and you return home, and then you're like, oh my god, you know, and you kind of know that's what you really are, and then you sort of float back down into your human experience.
I guess so. This is speculative for myself. I'm just kind of probing that a little bit. So we are. So when we have the DMT experience, the 5-MeO DMT experience, and you know, we've all obviously travelled. You probably more than most, obviously, but we are still connected. We are still embodied.
Yeah.
Maybe our consciousness isn't, but there is a tether.
Yes.
Because we come back to the body.
Absolutely.
I'm guessing what the question is do you think that there are subsequent realms? This is so speculative, it's ridiculous. But when you chop the tether,
Yeah.
and the body no longer exists,
Yeah.
I mean, is there the potential that you could pop through the 5-MeO experience and continue into it could just unfold and
What, like
become,
animals end game?
No, I'm just. Do you know what I mean? It's like.
Well, you
I'm
go so
trying to-
far, you just don't need to
Because
come
we're
back.
always tethered to the body, aren't we? Whilst we're still alive, whilst we're having these experiences. But when the death state, and Pascal, when we interviewed him, talked about the levels of DMT in the brain are greatly increased at death, but not, you know,
Along with others.
not nowhere near the levels that we have when we ingest DMT to have
Yeah.
the DMT experience.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, serotonin and all these other chemicals that are just bombarding the brain, and maybe I'm kind of moving away a little bit, but yeah, it's. Do you think that's the kind of the end game?
I hope not. I mean, I hope that, you know, a lot of these people that are continuously taking 5-MeO, and you hear reports of people taking it 8 times a day,
Yeah.
you know, for months on end, because they're so like, you know, it's almost like, you know, they're trying to escape reality by going into that void.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, what if we won the lottery by being human? Maybe the human experience is actually the really rare experience, and that void, or I mean, I call it the void, but its fullness is actually that's that's the norm. And this is actually the really, really rare lot of, you've only, you know,
The concept of good and bad in the one, you know, in that if you're the whole, if you're all of it, that there is no concept of good and bad. But then coming into this as human, the existence, the pain, the love, the whole life experience, you can understand that.
Yeah, and I think this is a training ground. It's a big learning lab, and I think that, you know, why, if you know, that's what I'm saying about the DMT not being a recreational experience. You know, now there's a lot of people doing vape pens and having DMT in the middle of a conversation, and I'm like, well, maybe, you know, you've got a limited amount of DMT that you can consume, and if you don't have enough left for when you really need it, you can put yourself into a bit of trouble.
A bit of a warning.
Yeah, you might get caught in purgatory.
Yeah, you can't get through.
Wow.
Oh, what's that limit?
That's a good start to the conversation, isn't it?
It's a bit of a downer, isn't it?
But I'm
with you on that thingy, because there was I used to, back in the day, I was watching guys smoking DMT and pipes or bombing it with weed, and kids, and I'm just like, what? Why?
Yeah. I'm just gonna grab my champagne.
There's an applause up there.
Do you want to hear what it sounds like?